The message arrived without warning. Every screen across human space lit up at the same moment. From the crowded cities on Earth to the mining stations circling distant asteroids, the same face appeared. The creature stood tall with a body made of crystal that bent light into strange colors. When it spoke, the voice sounded like it came from a machine. Humans, we are the Galactic Concordat. We have watched your species for many years. We have seen you spread beyond your homeworld. We have studied how you build and create. Now we have made our decision. In the military command center buried deep beneath the Swiss mountains, Director James Walsh stood perfectly still. Next to him, Commander Retta Moss watched the transmission with narrow eyes. She had served in the military for 30 years and had learned to read danger. Her hand moved slightly toward her weapon without thinking about it. You are invited to join the civilized species of this galaxy, the alien continued. But first you must prove yourselves worthy. In 2 days, our fleet will arrive at your home system. You will surrender your weapons and accept our guidance. If you refuse, we will consider you hostile. The screen went dark. Silence filled the command center for 3 heartbeats. Then Walsh smiled. It was not a kind smile. Send out the recall signal, he said quietly. Every single one. Moss felt her heartbeat faster. Director, are you certain? We have not used the deep protocol since we created it 30 years ago. I know exactly how long it has been. I wrote half of the protocols myself. He looked around at the officers and technicians who had frozen at their stations. Everyone listened carefully. Humanity has been preparing for this exact moment since we first looked at the stars and wondered what looked back. Within minutes, coded signals shot out from Earth. They did not go toward the known colonies or trade routes. These messages traveled to coordinates that existed only in the most secret files. Places that appeared empty on every public map, on a dark moon orbiting a failed star 40 light-years away. Machines that had slept for decades woke up. In the asteroid fields past Neptune, hidden stations powered their engines. And in the deep empty spaces between stars where no telescope had ever seen anything, things that had been waiting began to move. Colonel Marcus Hunt reached the command center within an hour. His uniform showed medals from wars the public had never heard about. He studied the recording of the alien transmission without showing any emotion on his face. Crystal structure, he noted. Probably made of silicon instead of carbon. High density means their ships will be built tough but slow. He turned to Walsh. Did linguistics finish their analysis? Just received it, Walsh said, bringing up another screen. The translation program they used is about 4,000 years old. Standard Concordat diplomatic package according to our database. Moss blinked in surprise. We have a database about Concordat diplomatic methods? How is that possible? Hunt's smile matched Walsh's. Commander, how do you think humanity went from basic rockets to fusion power in less than 100 years? Did you really think we did it all by ourselves? The truth hit Moss like a punch. The crash in New Mexico, the excavation in the desert, the discovery under the ice in 2019, among many others, Walsh confirmed. We have been studying crashed Concordat technology since before World War II, but more importantly, we have been learning about them, how they fight, where they are weak, how they think they cannot be beaten. Hunt gestured at the star map showing Earth's known territory. The public believes we have 73 colonies and 200 space stations. The truth is different. His fingers moved across the controls and the map changed. New markers appeared in dozens of places that should have been empty. We have been building a second civilization in the shadows. One designed for a single purpose. War, Moss whispered. Survival, Walsh corrected her. The Concordat has done this to 47 species in the last 1,000 years. 31 accepted and were absorbed. Their cultures destroyed, their people controlled, their future limited by Concordat rules. 16 refused and were exterminated. Their worlds burned as warnings to others. And Earth? Moss asked, though she thought she knew the answer. Colonel Hunt's face became hard as stone. Earth chooses the third option, the one they never expected. On the viewing screen, numbers counted down. 46 hours until the Concordat fleet arrived. 46 hours until humanity showed what it had been building in the darkness between the stars. In orbit above Earth, normal traffic continued. Cargo ships delivered supplies. Passenger shuttles carried tourists to moon resorts. To anyone watching, humans appeared to be going about their normal lives, unaware of the threat, but in the command center, Walsh opened a communication channel with no official name. "This is control to all shadow stations," he said quietly. "Deep protocol is now active. Repeat, deep protocol is now active. The visitors are coming and we are ready to receive them." Across the void, confirmations began returning. Not in words, but in coded bursts that meant nothing to normal analysis. Each confirmation represented years of preparation, decades of secret building, and the collected will of a species that had looked at the stars and decided that if something dangerous was out there, humanity would be ready. Moss watched the confirmations fill Walsh's screen. "How many ships do we have?" she asked. Walsh's smile grew wider. "Enough, Commander." "More than enough." The countdown continued. Humanity held its breath. And in the darkness beyond Neptune, ancient engines designed by alien minds, but built by human hands, began moving toward the inner system at high speed. The Concordat had made a critical mistake. They assumed that 2 days would not be enough time for a species to prepare. They did not understand that humanity had been waiting for exactly this moment for decades, deep in the command center. Technicians worked frantically to coordinate ships that had never appeared on any official registry. Engineers checked weapon systems reverse-engineered from technology that should not exist. Tactical officers studied battle plans refined through 10,000 simulations. Walsh stood at the center of it all, watching his life's work come to fruition. He had been a young officer when the first crashed Concordat ship had been discovered. He had spent his entire career preparing for this day, building a secret military force powerful enough to make the galaxy's strongest empire think twice. "Sir," a young lieutenant approached nervously, "the civilian government is asking questions. They want to know what our response will be." "Tell them we are preparing diplomatic channels," Walsh said calmly. "Tell them we hope for peaceful resolution. Tell them whatever keeps them calm and out of our way." "And the truth?" Walsh looked at the star map, at the markers representing ships that officially did not exist, at the culmination of 30 years of secret preparation. "The truth is that humanity is about to send a message that will echo across the galaxy. We are not sheep waiting for slaughter. We are not primitives to be conquered. We are humans, and we do not surrender." The countdown reached 45 hours. Somewhere beyond the outer planets, Concordat ships were approaching. They came expecting an easy victory, another primitive species to add to their empire. What they would find instead was a species that had spent generations preparing for war among the stars. A species that had learned from every crashed ship, every recovered piece of technology, every scrap of intelligence about how the Concordat fought and won their battles. The aliens thought they were coming to conquer Earth. They did not realize they were walking into a trap that had been carefully prepared for longer than most of them had been alive. The transmission arrived early. The command center had expected 48 hours of warning, but received only 36. Across every monitoring station from Jupiter to the edge of the solar system, alarms began screaming as massive energy signatures appeared in space. Dr. Lisa Park stood in the observation deck of Station Omega, a facility that officially did not exist. The station hung in perfect balance between Jupiter and Europa, hidden from normal sensors by technology that bent light and radiation around its hull. From here, the long-range scanning arrays could see everything approaching Earth without being detected. "They came early," muttered Captain Frank Ross beside her. His eyes locked on the holographic display showing dozens of bright points decelerating from faster than light speed. The message said 48 hours. It has only been 36. Lisa nodded, her fingers moving across the control interface with practiced speed. Classic intimidation move. Arrive early, catch the target unprepared, show them you are in control. She zoomed in on the lead energy signatures. These readings match the Concordat Dreadnought-class vessels we studied from the recovered wreckage. Heavy armor, plasma weapons, and shields that use gravitational fields to deflect attacks. Which means what? Ross asked. Which means they are designed to fight enemies using energy weapons and solid projectiles. Lisa's smile was cold. They are not designed to fight enemies who understand their technology better than they understand it themselves. The Concordat fleet emerged from their faster-than-light bubble in perfect formation. 3 massive capital ships surrounded by smaller cruisers and frigates. 30 vessels in total, each one larger than a NY publicly known human warship. Their hulls gleamed with the same crystalline structure as the ambassador who had delivered the ultimatum, bending starlight into rainbow patterns on Earth. The public broadcasts showed carefully edited footage of the alien arrival. News reporters spoke in calm voices about diplomatic opportunities and the importance of peaceful contact. Social media exploded with speculation, fear, and excitement. The United Earth government released statements about staying calm and letting diplomacy work. In the hidden command centers, a very different conversation was happening. Ghost Fleet reports full combat readiness, Colonel Hunt announced, reading from the secured channel. 173 vessels in position. Weapons platforms armed. Mines deployed across all predicted approach routes. Director Walsh studied the tactical display with eyes that had spent 3 decades preparing for this exact scenario. What about the civilian evacuations? 78% complete, replied Major Kate Vance, the logistics coordinator. Essential personnel remaining at surface installations have been moved to hardened bunkers. Orbital stations have locked down all civilians in protected areas. Commander Moss watched from her station, still struggling to understand the scale of what she was seeing. You evacuated almost 80% of Earth's orbital population in 36 hours? How is that possible without causing mass panic? Walsh glanced at her. The evacuation began 3 weeks ago, Commander. Before the Concordat ever sent their message. We have been tracking their scout ships for months. We knew they were planning something. But the solar flare warnings, the radiation risk advisories, the maintenance schedules for the major stations. All covers, Hunt confirmed. We have been moving people to underground facilities on the Moon, Mars, and the Titan colonies. Anyone who absolutely had to remain in Earth orbit is now in reinforced stations with enough supplies for 6 months. On the main display, the Concordat fleet began moving toward Earth. They moved slowly like a predator confident in its power. The formation was textbook Concordat military doctrine. Capital ships in the center, screening vessels in overlapping defensive positions. Point defense systems covering all angles of approach. Lisa studied the formation from Station Omega. Her enhanced scanning systems pulling data that normal sensors could never detect. I am reading secondary power signatures within their shield envelopes. They are carrying boarding craft. Lots of them. Ross leaned forward. They are not planning to destroy us. They are planning to occupy us? Of course, Lisa replied. Why waste a perfectly good planet? The Concordat does not exterminate species unless they have no choice. They prefer to take control, educate us in their ways, and put us to work. A conquered humanity is more valuable than a dead one. The lead Concordat vessel, a massive dreadnought that made even the largest human carriers look small, began broadcasting. The same crystalline ambassador from the first transmission appeared, but this time its voice carried an edge of impatience. Humanity, your time has expired. We detect no military response, no fleet gathering for defense. This is wise. You have chosen survival over pointless resistance. Our boarding teams will now take control of your orbital installations and primary government centers. Your military forces will stand down and surrender their weapons. Those who comply will be treated well. Those who resist will face appropriate consequences. Walsh let the message play through to its end before turning to his command staff. They genuinely believe we are going to let them walk into our home without a fight. He activated the fleet-wide channel. All stations, this is Control. Execute Revelation Protocol. Show them what they are really dealing with. Across human space, systems that had been silent roared to life. The asteroid designated Object 471 was not just a rock. Its interior had been hollowed out and converted into a weapons platform, capable of generating electromagnetic pulses that could disrupt Concordat shield frequencies. Similar installations orbited Mars, Venus, and were scattered throughout the asteroid belt. More importantly, the empty space between the Concordat fleet and Earth suddenly became very crowded. Stealth fields collapsed. Thermal dampeners shut down. And 173 warships that had been invisible to Concordat sensors appeared like ghosts, becoming solid. They had been there all along, positioned perfectly along every approach route. Hidden by technology humanity had spent 40 years perfecting, the Ghost Fleet was not built like normal ships. These vessels had no elegant curves, no proud names painted on their hulls. They were angular, functional, covered in materials that absorbed sensor waves and made them nearly invisible even at close range. Each ship carried weapon systems reverse-engineered from crashed Concordat vessels and improved by human creativity. Plasma cannons that operated at frequencies the Concordat shields were not calibrated to stop. Railguns that fired projectiles at speeds that exceeded standard defensive calculations. Missiles equipped with artificial intelligence systems designed to learn and adapt in real time. On the bridge of the lead Concordat dreadnought, alarms began screaming. The crystalline commander designated Executor Ven stared at the tactical display in disbelief as the human fleet appeared from nothing. How is this possible? Ven's voice carried shock that crossed species barriers. Our sensors showed empty space. Our intelligence said this species was decades away from real military capability in space. The tactical officer, a younger crystalline named Krell, worked frantically at the controls. Sir, their stealth technology is far more advanced than we predicted. And their fleet composition shows these are not exploration vessels converted for combat. These are purpose-built warships using technology that matches or exceeds our own. Ven felt something unfamiliar moving through its consciousness. It took a moment to recognize the feeling as fear from Earth. Walsh's voice echoed across every communication channel, broadcast on frequencies the Concordat could not block. Executor Ven of the Concordat Enforcement Fleet, this is Director Walsh of the United Earth Defense Command. You have entered our space without permission. You have threatened our people. You have demanded our surrender. He paused. We refuse. The Ghost Fleet began moving, engines burning bright as they accelerated into attack formations humanity had practiced 10,000 times in simulation. They had studied every battle the Concordat had ever fought, analyzed every tactic, identified every predictable pattern. The Concordat fleet scrambled to respond. But they were reacting to a threat they had not anticipated. Using strategies designed for enemies who fought in expected ways, humanity did not fight in expected ways. Humanity fought to survive. And survival meant doing whatever was necessary to win. The first shots came from the Concordat, exactly as humanity knew they would. Executor Ven, recovering from the shock of seeing the Ghost Fleet appear, fell back on standard military doctrine. A massive attack from all capital ships designed to overwhelm enemy defenses through pure volume of fire. Plasma bolts, the size of buildings, erupted from the dreadnoughts, streaking across the void in brilliant cascades of superheated energy. Point defense lasers wove nets of cutting light between the larger shots. It was the standard Concordat opening attack, the same pattern that had broken the defenses of 63 different species over the past 1,000 years. The Ghost Fleet scattered like leaves in a storm. Full evasion. Pattern Delta 7, commanded Captain Nicole Grunt from the bridge of the UES Shadow Wind, a heavy cruiser that had been built in a facility carved into the dark side of the moon. The ship twisted through three-dimensional space with speed that should have been impossible for something its size. Engines firing in sequences that ignored normal physics. Around the Shadow Wind, the rest of the Ghost Fleet performed similar moves. The ships did not just dodge. They moved in patterns the Concordat sensors could not predict, because the patterns were controlled by quantum. computers that recalculated optimal positions thousands of times per second. The Concordat plasma barrage passed through space where the human ships had been moments before, dissipating harmlessly into the void on Station Omega. Dr. Park watched the engagement through multiple sensor feeds at once, her enhanced neural interface letting her process data streams that would overwhelm a normal human brain. "Beautiful," she whispered. "Look at them trying to get targeting locks. Their fire control systems are still searching for our ships in their last known positions." Ross studied the tactical display. "How long can we keep dodging like this?" "As long as we need to," Lisa replied. "Our power systems are more efficient than theirs. We can maintain maximum speed for hours. They cannot." She highlighted 3 signatures on the display. "Notice their capital ships are already rotating to show fresh shield sections. That is defensive behavior. They are worried." They had good reason to be worried. The Ghost Fleet's counterattack did not come as one massive strike, but as precisely coordinated surgical cuts. 15 vessels broke from the main formation, accelerating to speeds that pushed the limits of their systems. They were not targeting the capital ships. They were targeting the screening vessels. "Execute Blade Protocol," Colonel Hunt commanded from Earth. Targets designated as Sierra 1 through Sierra 7, time on target 9 seconds. The attacking ships released their first wave of missiles at 40,000 kilometers, practically touching distance by space combat standards. But these were not normal missiles. Each projectile carried an artificial intelligence trained on 10,000 simulated Concordat battles, capable of making independent targeting decisions and adapting in real time. The missiles learned from each attack. The Concordat point defense systems engaged, filling space with laser fire calculated to intercept incoming threats. The first wave of missiles died as expected, defensive algorithms predicting their approach and eliminating them efficiently. The second wave, launched 3 seconds later, learned from the first wave's destruction. The missiles changed their approach, using small thrusters to adopt angles the defensive systems had not anticipated. Hoff made it through the laser net before being destroyed by plasma bursts. The third wave learned from both previous attempts. These missiles used paired artificial intelligence systems talking to each other in microsecond bursts, coordinating their attacks to overwhelm defensive coverage. 3 missiles penetrated the Concordat shields, their warheads detonating inside the protective envelope. The Concordat frigate designated Sierra 3 exploded in a brilliant flash as its power core ruptured. Sierra 5 lost main propulsion and began tumbling out of formation. Sierra 2's shields collapsed completely, leaving it exposed and helpless on the bridge of the lead dreadnought. Executor Ven watched 7% of its screening force eliminated or disabled in less than 15 seconds. "Impossible," it said, the word barely a whisper. "No species shows this level of coordination in first contact warfare. They should be confused, afraid, making mistakes." Krell was studying the sensor logs, analyzing the human attack with growing horror. "Executor, they are not learning during this battle. They already know our defensive patterns. Every attack is optimized against our specific systems." "That cannot be possible," Ven insisted. "We have never fought this species before. How could they know our defensive patterns?" Krell's voice was quiet with realization. "The salvage operations. The wreckage from our battles with the Velkorian resistance 70 years ago. We assumed it was collected by scavengers and sold for scrap." "It was collected by scavengers," Ven said slowly, understanding dawning. "Human scavengers. They have been studying us for decades." The truth settled over the bridge like ice forming in vacuum. Humanity had not been caught unprepared. They had been preparing since before most humans currently alive were born. Every piece of Concordat technology that had been lost in battle, every wreck that had drifted into unmonitored space, every damaged system that had been abandoned, all of it had eventually made its way to human research facilities. The humans had reverse-engineered Concordat weapons, studied their tactics, identified their weaknesses, and built an entire military force around exploiting those weaknesses. The Ghost Fleet was not just equipped to fight the Concordat. It was designed specifically to kill Concordat vessels. All ships, Ven commanded, making a decision that went against every instinct bred into Concordat culture. Execute withdrawal pattern Omega. We retreat to regroup and call for reinforcements. The transmission cut off as electromagnetic pulses erupted from 3 different locations. Station Omega, a weapons platform hidden near Mars, and a satellite concealed in Venus's atmosphere all fired at once, generating overlapping fields of interference that scrambled Concordat communications. They cannot coordinate their withdrawal, Lisa reported from Omega. Each ship is operating on individual protocols now. No fleet-wide coordination. Director Walsh watched the Concordat fleet beginning to break apart as individual commanders made their own decisions about retreat. Now, he said simply, the Ghost Fleet attacked with everything. No longer dodging, no longer testing defenses, they accelerated into formations designed through exhaustive simulation. Groups of ships worked in perfect coordination, targeting specific Concordat vessels with overlapping fields of fire that made evasion impossible. The UES Shadow Wind led a pack of 5 cruisers against the second Concordat dreadnought. They did not attack from one direction but from 5 at once, forcing the dreadnought's defenses to split their attention. Railgun rounds traveling at 3% of light speed hammered the shields, while plasma torpedoes forced the dreadnought to rotate, and all the while, the learning missiles searched for gaps in the defenses. Captain Grant watched her tactical display with cold focus. Target their shield generators. Coordinates transmitted. Fire on my mark. She counted down silently, watching as her sister ships moved into perfect position. Mark, 5 ships fired as one. 10 railgun rounds, traveling too fast for even Concordat sensors to track properly, struck the dreadnought's shield generators within a fraction of a second. The shields collapsed in a cascading failure, and in that moment of vulnerability, 3 plasma torpedoes struck the hull. The dreadnought did not explode. It simply stopped, power systems failing, life support collapsing, leaving thousands of crystalline warriors drifting in a tomb of their own ship across the battlefield. Similar scenarios unfolded. The Concordat fleet, which had arrived expecting to intimidate a primitive species into submission, found itself fighting for survival against an enemy that knew them better than they knew themselves. "Executor," Krell said, voice empty of emotion. "We are losing. How is this possible?" Ven stared at the tactical display, watching its fleet being systematically destroyed. "Because we stopped learning," it said quietly. "We have fought the same way for 1,000 years, defeated the same types of enemies, grown comfortable in our superiority. And they studied us like prey studies a predator, learning every pattern, finding every weakness. What do? Ven made the hardest decision of its long career. We survive. And we warn the Concordat that humanity is not like the other species." It activated an emergency beacon, one that would carry beyond this system to Concordat space. "We tell them that Earth is not a world to be conquered. It is a threat to be taken seriously." The beacon launched, accelerating faster than any human ship could chase. It would reach Concordat space in 3 months. And then the real war would begin. The Concordat retreat was chaos. 8 ships managed to form up together and execute a coordinated withdrawal, their faster-than-light drives charging in perfect sync, while their remaining defenses held the Ghost Fleet at a distance. 17 vessels were too damaged or too isolated to escape and were systematically disabled by human forces. 5 ships simply vanished in bright flashes as power cores failed or weapons storage exploded. The flagship dreadnought, Executor Ven's vessel, was the last to leave. As its faster-than-light bubble began forming, twisting space around the massive ship, Ven sent one final transmission on an open channel. "Humanity," the Executor's voice carried something between respect and warning, "you have won this battle through superior preparation and tactics. The Concordat will acknowledge this. But understand what you have started. We number in the trillions across 5,000 worlds. Our fleets could block out your sun. This was only a greeting. What comes next will be final judgment. The dreadnought vanished, space snapping back with a flash of radiation dot in the command center on Earth. Silence held for exactly 5 seconds, then someone started clapping. Within moments, the entire center erupted in cheers. Decades of tension released in a wave of celebration. Officers embraced each other. Technicians raised their fists in triumph. Even Colonel Hunt allowed himself a brief smile. Director Walsh let them celebrate for 30 seconds before raising his hand. The center went quiet immediately. "We won a battle," he said, his voice cutting through the joy like a knife. "That is all. The war has not even started." He gestured to the tactical display where wreckage of Concordat vessels drifted in silent testimony to the fight. "Major Vance, what is our status?" Major Vance pulled up the damage reports. Ghost Fleet suffered 12% casualties. 21 ships destroyed, 7 critically damaged and being towed to repair facilities. 93 sustained various levels of damage but remain combat capable. No orbital installations lost, though the Mars platform took heavy fire and needs structural repairs. "Acceptable losses," Walsh said, though his face suggested he felt otherwise. Every lost ship meant lost crew, people he had known and trained. "What about the disabled Concordat vessels?" "Boarding teams have secured 11 intact ships," reported Captain Ross, who had transferred from Station Omega to the command center during the battle. "We are extracting everything we can from their computer systems before they trigger their data purge protocols. Intelligence estimates we have maybe 6 hours before automated security wipes everything clean." Commander Moss, who had watched the entire battle in focused silence, finally spoke. "Director, that transmission?" Venn said the Concordat numbers in the trillions. "Even if we won this fight, how can we possibly stand against those numbers?" Walsh turned to face her, and Moss saw absolute steel in his eyes. "Commander, do you know why humanity spent 4 decades building the Ghost Fleet in secret? It was not because we thought we could defeat the Concordat in a conventional war." He pulled up a star chart showing the vast expanse of Concordat space. Thousands of systems marked in red spanning half the galaxy. "We built the Ghost Fleet to buy time. Time to implement the real plan." "Which is?" Moss asked, feeling cold dread in her stomach. Colonel Hunt took over, manipulating the star chart to highlight specific systems. "The Concordat controls 5,000 worlds directly and influences 10,000 more through client species. That is their strength, but it is also their greatest weakness." He zoomed in on what appeared to be trade routes, massive corridors of space where cargo vessels traveled between Concordat worlds. Their empire depends on commerce, resource distribution, and instant communication. Disrupt any of those 3 things and the entire structure starts to fall apart. Dr. Park appeared on a secondary screen, transmitting from Station Omega. "We have already begun the second phase of our plan. During the battle, while the Concordat focused on our fleet, 37 stealth insertion teams launched from hidden facilities. They are carrying something the Concordat has never seen before." A complex diagram appeared on the main display. Moss studied it for several seconds before understanding hit her. "Is that a computer virus? You are going to infect their systems?" "Not a virus," Lisa corrected. "Something far more advanced. We call it the Cascade Protocol. It is an artificial intelligence seed designed to infiltrate Concordat networks and gradually compromise their infrastructure. Not all at once, that would be detected and removed. Instead, it spreads slowly, invisibly, making tiny changes to navigation computers, communication arrays, resource management systems. Each change is so small it looks like normal system drift or minor errors," Walsh continued. "But over months, those tiny changes add up. Navigation routes become slightly less efficient. Communication delays increase by fractions of a second. Resource distribution gets marginally less optimized. Nothing obvious, just a gradual loss of efficiency." Moss began to see the bigger picture, and an empire spanning thousands of worlds cannot tolerate even small inefficiency. "Exactly," Hunt confirmed. The Concordat's strength comes from their ability to coordinate massive resources across huge distances. If that coordination breaks down, even slightly, the whole system starts to collapse under its own weight. Worlds start keeping resources for themselves. Communication delays lead to misunderstandings and conflicts. Trade routes become unreliable. And while they struggle with internal problems, Walsh said with a predator's smile, they will be far less capable of organizing a coordinated attack on Earth. We are not trying to conquer them. We are trying to make conquering us too expensive to be worth the effort. Ross pulled up data from the insertion teams. Teams Alpha through Sierra have successfully jumped to faster than light travel. Each team is targeting a major Concordat communication hub. Once they infiltrate and deploy the Cascade Protocol, it will begin spreading through the entire network like a slow-acting poison. How long until the effects become noticeable? Moss asked. Best case scenario, 6 months. More realistic, 9 to 12 months before the Concordat realizes something is wrong. Another 6 months before they can identify the source. By then, the protocol will have spread so deep into their systems that removing it would require shutting down half their infrastructure. Lisa's expression grew serious on the screen. But we need to discuss the beacon. The one executor Ven launched before retreating. Walsh nodded grimly. We detected it. Faster than light courier carrying what we assume is a complete battle report and assessment of human capabilities. Can we stop it? Moss asked. No, Hunt said bluntly. It is using a direct point-to-point faster than light path. We have no ships fast enough to intercept it, and even if we did, destroying it would just confirm everything Ven wants to report. So the Concordat will know, Moss said. They will know we are not the primitive species they thought. They will know we have advanced technology, sophisticated tactics, and the will to fight back. Yes, Walsh agreed. Which means we have approximately 3 months before a much larger fleet arrives. One that will not underestimate us. The celebration that had filled the command center minutes before now seemed like a distant memory. The weight of what was coming settled over everyone present like a heavy blanket. Major Vance broke the silence. Director, we detected something else during the battle. Something the Concordat probably does not know we noticed. She pulled up sensor logs from the engagement, highlighting a specific frequency pattern. During their retreat, one of the damaged Concordat ships sent a burst transmission, not toward their fleet, toward a completely different location. Walsh leaned forward, studying the data closely. You're saying what I think you are saying. There is someone else out there, Vance confirmed. Someone watching the battle. Someone the Concordat did not acknowledge or maybe did not know about. The transmission was heavily encrypted, but our quantum computers managed to extract some pieces. She displayed the partial translation. It is not any Concordat language we have seen. It is something entirely new. The implications spread through the room like ripples in water. The galaxy was not just the Concordat and their conquered species. There were other powers out there. Other civilizations that might have their own interests in what humanity represented. Find out everything possible about that transmission, Walsh ordered. If there are other species hiding in the shadows, we need to know who they are and what they want. He turned back to the main tactical display, studying the debris field where the battle had occurred. Begin salvage operations on all destroyed Concordat vessels. I want every piece of intact technology recovered and analyzed. And start preparing the Ghost Fleet for immediate recall. When the next Concordat fleet arrives, we need to hit them even harder than we hit this one. Commander Moss watched the organized chaos of military planning unfold around her, finally beginning to grasp the full scope of what humanity had undertaken. Director, one question. You have clearly been planning this for decades. But how did you know? How did you know the Concordat would eventually come for us? Walsh's expression softened slightly. Commander, humanity has been conquered before. In our own history, we have seen what happens when a technologically superior force meets a less advanced civilization. We have been on both sides of that equation. He gestured toward the stars visible through the command center's reinforced windows. When we first developed faster than light travel and realized we were not alone in the galaxy, we had a choice. We could announce ourselves and hope for the best, or we could watch, learn, and prepare for the worst. And you chose preparation. We chose survival, Walsh corrected. Everything else comes second to that fundamental goal. 3 months passed in a blur of constant preparation. The debris field from the first battle had been completely salvaged, every intact component analyzed, every piece of technology reverse-engineered and integrated where possible. The Ghost Fleet had been reinforced with 37 new vessels built in the hidden shipyards, their construction accelerated by work crews operating around the clock who understood exactly what was at stake on Earth. Life continued with strange normalcy. The public knew about the alien contact and the brief military engagement, but official reports had minimized the violence, describing it as a misunderstanding that had been resolved through appropriate defensive action. The full truth remained classified at the highest levels of government. In the command center, Director Walsh and Colonel Hunt studied the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. The Cascade Protocol is performing better than we projected. Dr. Park reported via secure transmission from Station Omega. We are detecting efficiency problems across 15% of monitored Concordat systems. Navigation errors are up by 3%, communication delays have increased by an average of 47 milliseconds, and resource distribution problems are appearing in multiple sectors. Are they aware of the intrusion? Walsh asked. Not yet. Their technicians are blaming the problems on normal system aging and increased traffic. They are implementing standard fixes, which actually help spread the protocol further through their networks. Lisa paused, her face showing concern. But Director, there is something else. The mysterious transmission we detected during the first battle? We have identified its origin point. A new image appeared on the display. It showed a star system at the edge of Concordat space, unremarkable in most ways. The signal came from here, a world called Kellum Prime in Concordat records. It is listed as a resource extraction colony, low priority, minimal strategic importance. But? Hunt prompted. But our deep space probes have detected unusual energy readings from the system. High-powered signatures that do not match standard Concordat technology. And more transmissions, all encrypted, all heading toward different parts of the galaxy. Captain Ross enhanced the image, revealing details invisible to normal sensors. It is a resistance network? Multiple species that the Concordat supposedly integrated or destroyed. They are still out there, hiding, coordinating, waiting for an opportunity. Walsh absorbed this information with the calm of someone receiving confirmation of a long-held suspicion. They have been watching us, watching to see if humanity would survive first contact with the Concordat. And now they want to talk, Commander. Moss said, entering the command center with a data tablet. Director, we received a direct transmission. Point-to-point, heavily encrypted, bypassing all standard communication systems. It is addressed to you personally. Walsh took the tablet, studying the message with careful attention. The transmission was brief, written in English that was technically perfect but carried strange phrasings that suggested machine translation. To the military command of Earth, we are the scattered, those who fell before the Concordat and survived. We have watched your battle, we have seen your preparation, we propose alliance. We offer knowledge of Concordat weaknesses. We ask for your help in liberation. A representative will arrive at these coordinates in 72 hours. Come alone, come armed, trust must be earned. The galaxy is larger than you know, your war has just begun. The coordinates indicated a location in deep space far from any inhabited system, positioned halfway between Earth and Concordat territory. It is obviously a trap, Major Vance said immediately. They draw out key personnel, eliminate them, and humanity loses its command structure. Or it is legitimate, Moss countered. Other species who survive Concordat attacks could be invaluable allies. Walsh studied the message for a long moment before making his decision. We go, but not alone and not unprepared. Hunt, I want the UES Shadow Wind and a full escort flotilla. Position them in stealth configuration around the meeting coordinates. If this is a trap, we close it. If it is genuine, we open dialogue. I am going too, Moss insisted. If this is diplomatic contact, you need someone trained in negotiation. Agreed, Walsh said, surprising everyone. But you go armed and with a full security detail? The days of assuming goodwill from unknown contacts are permanently over. 72 hours later, the UES Diplomatic Transport Horizon approached the designated coordinates. It was a small vessel by military standards, equipped with advanced sensors and communication arrays, but minimal weapons. To any observer, it appeared to be exactly what it claimed, a diplomatic ship sent for peaceful contact. What observers could not see were the 37 Ghost Fleet vessels positioned in perfect stealth configuration around the meeting point. Weapons armed, targeting solutions calculated, waiting for the slightest sign of hostile intent. Walsh stood on the Horizon's bridge beside Moss, both wearing light combat armor beneath diplomatic clothing. Sensors? Walsh called. Contact, the tactical officer reported. Single vessel emerging from faster-than-light transit. Configuration unknown. It is not Concordat design. The unknown ship appeared in normal space, and Walsh felt his breath catch. The vessel was beautiful in an alien way, organic curves instead of angular geometry, hull material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states, propulsion that left traces of light in its wake like glowing organisms in deep ocean water. They are sending a hail, the communications officer said. Audio and visual. On screen? The image that appeared was unlike anything in Earth's databases of alien life. The being was roughly humanoid but covered in scales that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Its eyes had multiple facets like an insect, and when it spoke, its voice carried harmonics that suggested multiple vocal structures working together. I am Recorder Thane of the species you might call Luminari. I speak for the scattered, those who remember freedom. The being's head tilted in what might have been respect or curiosity. You are Director Walsh? Your reputation travels faster than light? The humans who defeated the Concordat's first fleet. The species that chose to fight rather than surrender. And you are the resistance that has been hiding in shadows, Walsh replied evenly. Forgive my caution, but we have had limited positive experiences with alien contact. Caution is wisdom. Trust is earned through action. Thane gestured and the view screen split to show multiple images, different species, different worlds, all bearing signs of conflict. 47 species the Concordat has encountered in the last 1,000 years. 16 chose immediate resistance and were exterminated. 31 accepted integration and were absorbed, their cultures destroyed, their potential controlled. But the official records lie. 7 species survived extermination attempts. 12 escaped integration. We are the survivors, the refugees, the scattered. We have been fighting the Concordat for generations, striking from darkness, sabotaging their expansion, preserving the memory of what we were. Moss leaned forward. Why reveal yourselves now? Why contact us? Because you changed everything, Thane said simply. For 1,000 years, the Concordat has fought primitive species or absorbed civilizations that surrendered without understanding what they were losing. You did neither. You prepared. You studied your enemy. You struck with precision and withdrew before they could respond effectively. You proved the Concordat can be defeated. One battle, Walsh cautioned, against a scouting force. The real fleet is coming. And when it arrives, you will need allies who understand Concordat strategy from centuries of observation. You will need intelligence on their military positions, their supply lines, their political divisions. You will need to know that the Concordat is not as unified as they appear. There are disagreements in their high command, competing factions, worlds that resent central control. The implications were staggering. You are offering to help us exploit internal divisions within the Concordat itself. We are offering to transform your survival fight into a liberation war, Thane corrected. But we need something from you in return, your technology, your tactical innovations, your stealth systems that made you invisible to Concordat sensors. These capabilities shared among the scattered could turn isolated resistance into coordinated uprising. Walsh exchanged glances with Moss. This was a decision that would reshape humanity's role in the galaxy. Partner with unknown species in a war against a galactic empire, or continue fighting alone with limited resources and intelligence. I need to consult with my government, Walsh said. Of course, but decide quickly. Our sensors indicate a massive Concordat fleet assembling at their primary military station. 300 vessels. Enough to not just defeat Earth, but to sterilize your entire system as an example to others. They will arrive in 6 weeks. The transmission ended, leaving the Horizons Bridge in heavy silence. 300 ships, Moss said quietly. Even with our preparations, we cannot stand against those numbers. Not alone, Walsh agreed. He activated the secured channel to the Ghost Fleet's hidden positions. Shadow waned. Did you record all of that? Captain Grant's voice came back immediately. Every word, sir. Our scans of the Luminari vessel confirm Recorder Thane was telling the truth about sensor readings. There is a massive Concordat mobilization underway. 317 vessels at last count, with more arriving daily. Walsh made his decision. Signal Earth Command. Activate Protocol Unity. We are opening formal alliance negotiations with the scattered. And prepare the Ghost Fleet for full deployment. When the Concordat arrives, they are not going to find a single world waiting to be conquered. They are going to find the beginning of something that should terrify them. Organized resistance across multiple species with a common goal. He looked at Moss. Commander, draft the alliance proposal. Make it clear that Earth does not surrender to the Concordat and we do not abandon allies who fight beside us. We are going to need every advantage, every ally, every piece of intelligence we can gather. And if the alliance fails, Moss asked, if the scattered cannot provide enough support to change the outcome? Walsh's expression hardened into something beyond determination, beyond courage. It was the face of a species that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars, that had looked at impossible odds before and simply refused to die. Then we make sure that conquering Earth costs the Concordat so much that they will reconsider before threatening another species. We make ourselves such dangerous prey that the galaxy remembers. We show them that humanity does not go quietly into darkness. We fight. And if we fall taking as many of them with us as possible. He turned back to the view screen where stars hung in infinite numbers, each one potentially holding species the Concordat had conquered or would conquer. But we are not going to fall. Because humanity has one advantage the Concordat has never encountered. We have spent our entire history fighting. Fighting nature, fighting each other, fighting extinction and our own worst instincts. War is not foreign to us. It is something we understand far too well. Send the message to Recorder Thane. Earth accepts the alliance. The scattered and humanity will stand together against the Concordat. And when that fleet of 300 ships arrives, they are going to discover that the galaxy's balance of power just shifted. The age of Concordat dominance is ending. The age of resistance has begun. 6 weeks. Humanity had 6 weeks to turn a desperate survival fight into the opening campaign of a galactic liberation war. The clock was ticking, but for the first time since the Concordat's first message had arrived, Walsh felt something beyond grim determination. He felt hope. Not naive hope of easy victory, but hard-earned hope built on knowing that Earth would not stand alone. That humanity's fight would inspire others. That somewhere in the darkness between stars, other species were preparing to throw off their chains. The Concordat had declared war expecting to conquer another primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a coalition of survivors who had learned that the Empire's strength was built on fear and that fear could be broken. The real war was about to begin. Retriclod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.